In Squat Rex 1, we talked about the lower back rounding at the bottom of the squat. In Squat Rex 2, we talked about doing a good morning out of the bottom of the squat. Both of those common squat problems can be attributed to poor activation of the glutes and the hamstrings when squatting. A lot of people have been doing a lot of bodybuilder type of exercises like leg extensions or leg press, and when they do squats, it's not a natural movement for them. They've kind of forgotten how to engage the hips and the glutes and the hamstrings when they're doing presses with their legs. Naturally, when you are doing a leg press, your lower back is fixed and your hips really have nowhere to go except forward. And this will force a lot of the stress onto your quads and onto your lower back and your knees. If your lower back is rounded, that's going to happen. If you are unable to engage the the hamstrings and the glutes when you are doing leg exercises, most of the stress is then going to fall on the lower back and on the knees. So it's really important that you are able to engage the glutes and the hamstrings when you are doing squats. So in Squat Rex 3, I'm going to give you a few exercises and pointers for engaging the glutes and hamstrings when you squat. The next glute and hamstring activation exercise is called the leg pullback. It's a Pilates exercise, and you'll see lots of variations of it done with stability balls and maybe on benches. Basically, all you do is you sit in an L position with your hands behind you, facing your back, your fingers pointed towards your back. You're going to push using your feet and pulling your upper body and your middle of your body up straight here. Now, you want to be putting all of the weight into your heel so that you are feeling it in your hamstrings and your glutes. From this position, you're going to lift one leg up, and you want to make sure that the midline of your body is not sinking as you do this. It's pretty difficult, but people who are good at this exercise will be able to lift their leg much higher than people who are unable to activate those hips and hamstrings. It's a pretty challenging exercise. Give it a shot. Last time on Squat Rex, we mentioned wide stance squats as a great exercise to engage the hips and the hamstrings. I want to show those one more time, just to emphasize what a great exercise they really are. When you set up for a wide stance squat, you want to make sure that you're as tight as you can possibly be, just as you would be with a sumo deadlift or any other heavy lift. Make sure that you're as tight as you can possibly be. Head up, chest out, stomach tight, hips, hamstrings, just about everything as tight as you can possibly be. Okay? Take a breath in, descend, and up. Keep that weight on your heels. If that weight drifts onto your toes, you're really going to be taking a lot of stress off of the hip and the hamstrings. Ease out, and drive. Wide stance squats. We talked about doing a good morning out of the bottom of the squat on Squat Rex 2. That's something you want to avoid. But the good morning is a great exercise to help you engage the glutes and the hamstrings if you do it correctly. If you're a beginner to squatting, it's probably not an exercise that you want to do because it might interfere with your ability to get used to just the basic squat. You might end up doing a good morning just because you've learned the pattern of doing good mornings, and you might carry that over into your squat. But if you're fairly familiar with the squat already, the good morning is a great exercise for you to try. You're going to carry the bar either in a high bar squat position or a low bar squat position. It doesn't really matter which position you use. However, if you use the high bar position on your traps, it's probably going to limit how low you can go in the good morning, because at some point in your good morning, if the weight is heavy enough, it's going to roll forward on you. So whether you use a high bar or a low bar squat, is up to you, but if you plan on going low, you probably want to start with a low bar squat position. Take a fairly wide stance. There's a million variations of a good morning, but if you're specifically trying to hit the hips, the glutes, and the hamstrings, in my opinion, a wider stance is preferable. Take a wider stance, turn your toes slightly out, keep that stomach tight, make sure you have a good tight arch, keep that chest out. You're going to force the hips back, hips go back, hips go back, hips go back the entire way, and then bring your hips forward and through. A great exercise you hardly ever see in the gym is the one-legged deadlift. It's a great exercise for waking up your glutes and your hamstrings. With the one-legged deadlift, you're only going to be deadlifting on one foot, and one leg is going to be suspended behind you. Pretend like you're picking up something off the ground. Your back leg is going to be suspended, and you're going to reach down to the ground, back straight, and then come straight back up. Down, back up. Give the exercise a shot. Don't go too heavy. You might even want to try starting with body weight first to get the hang of the exercise. The Bulgarian split squat is an exercise you probably won't see at the gym very often. Basically, it's a lunge with the back foot elevated. It's a great exercise for putting stress on the glutes, the hamstrings, and it really puts stress on the hip flexor. When you position yourself in front of the elevated platform, you want to make sure that you are distancing yourself enough from the platform that when you go into your Bulgarian split squat, that your front leg doesn't, the knee doesn't drive too far forward of your toes. So, get in line in front of the box or whatever you're using to elevate your back leg. Bench will work too. Make sure that you are far enough away from the elevated platform. Position your foot. Keep your upper body as upright as possible, and then squat down. Okay? Again, you want to keep your upper body as upright as possible, otherwise it takes a lot of stress off of the glute and the hamstring. Come down to get a good stretch, and up. You don't want to go real heavy on this exercise. Probably body weight is going to be plenty for most people, and if it's a very challenging exercise, you might want to lower the height of this back platform. In fact, you could probably just do regular lunges if that's challenging enough for you. But make sure that your back foot and your front foot are separated enough that when you go into your lunge, that your front knee is not shooting too far forward of your toes.